So what I like to do with these is like find out the beginnings, and yours is pretty interesting because it's not like you're born in the States. You were born in Italy, right?
Yeah, born and raised in Roma, Roma, Italia. My sister and I, we went to school there, and then my parents decided, with all of us many, many years ago that we were going to come to America and give it a shot. And, we waited in line and did everything by the book and got our green cards, moved to the States, had to learn the language, the whole thing, and actually went back to Italy because my parents were having really, tough times. My father was an actor in the 60s and 70s and
Yeah.
early 80s. And then when he moved to the States, it was a whole different story, trying to get a job as an actor. And America was different at the time. So we struggled a lot, but we stuck together as a family and then came back the second time and became an American citizen and been here ever since.
Wow. Well, how did he get into acting? Because I'm sure that's obviously you saw that growing up, like most people.
Yeah.
Your dad's a
Yeah.
farmer. You lean towards farming, so it's so hard to break the mold for a lot of careers. And I think acting's one because it's just so different.
It is a unique art to it, and also, I mean, the 1% of the actors are actually working and making a living only as actors. So it's a very challenging business. But my father was, he was born in Montelepre outside of Palermo. My family's from Palermo and my father's side. My mom's side is from Prague, the Czech Republic. And my father was, in the 40s and the 50s, he just wanted to be an actor. He wanted to move out of Sicily. He ran away from home many times. He was he was one of the rebel. He was a big family. There was 10 of them, 8 siblings and 2 parents. My grandfather, Giuseppe, was the only working man in the family. Imagine taking care of 10 people by yourself.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so my father ran away and he wanted to become an actor and he did. And he became a very successful one. He was in a movie called Grand Prix, won 3
Yeah.
Academy Awards, the best race car movie of all time. And then I grew up in the world of well, I didn't grow up in the world of acting. I mean, I had people around me that were actors who I didn't know growing up. My father kept me and my sister very private, but at the same time, I knew my father was a star. He was a movie star, and I just knew I wanted to do the same thing. And then when I was a teenager and moved I went to acting schools. I went to the Stella Adler. I did everything that I was
Nice.
supposed to do. Yeah, so I started very young, and I knew I wanted to either become an actor or a race car driver, and acting became first.
Yeah. What was
Yeah.
going to like cinema like when you were a kid in like Italy? Was there a lot of did you get a lot of movies from the States or was it just
Yeah, I
Italian
watched all
films?
American films. Well, I
Cool.
watched a lot of American films because I was a big fan of especially musicals because they left that part in the English language, and I was really mesmerized by it. Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire,
Yeah.
Esther Williams, Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra. I grew up watching those films. Steve McQueen, loved him.
Yeah.
Brando and Redford and Robert Mitchum and John Wayne. I watched those movies just, Rio Bravo is one of my favorite films of all time. I grew up watching a lot of films. I just watched films over and over again as a young boy, especially my father's movies as well. But I just wanted to do what they did, and I wanted to do what my father did. And so when I had the chance to come to the States, that's all I wanted to do.
That's awesome. Did you go to sets as a kid? Did your dad
My
take you and your
father
sister
brought
at all?
me. No, my father kept us away from that world growing up. And he was also traveling a lot, doing films outside of Italy at the time. So we were going to school, and he just wanted to protect us, from that world because he knew so much about it.
Yeah.
But obviously, later we started working together. When I started working as an actor, we did movies together. He was on the set with me, and we were working together on scripts together, and we were running lines and traveling together for a very good period of time. And then I ended up going to Italy and doing some series and movies over there as well. Me and my father worked together all the time. We worked together too. We did a movie called High Voltage with Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's daughter. It was an action film. It was a really cool film and to work with my father was the best. He was just
Yeah.
the greatest. So I had the chance to work with him too. And then also we did I brought him on Bold and the Beautiful. He played
I
my
saw that on
uncle.
his IMDb.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so we tried to work together, and we were always together. And yeah, he was the greatest. He really was.
That's cool that you had that opportunity to do that. To be
Yeah,
able to,
absolutely.
some people, sometimes it just doesn't work out. Like when I talk to people that maybe their old man was just a little bit older or their mom was a little bit older, and just the gap of like their career was sunsetting, whether it be acting or like even just behind the camera. So it's
Yeah,
really cool because that's like a special thing. It's like this weird bond. You know this from being an actor, like whether it be like being on Bold and Beautiful or filming a movie for 2 months, you're like, it's like this little ecosystem of like 2 months of, it's like your family. Like these people you never met before, maybe you worked on other movies, you
right.
become like a family and then it's over. So it's cool to have
It
like
is.
somebody that is
It
your
is.
family there for that
Yeah.
experience.
It's a very intriguing, interesting business. You get to work with strangers, trying to pretend to be somebody else, living in this dreamland for a minute. And it's just a great time, to meet new folks. And some people become friends, some people get together, some people create families. It's a very interesting, unique place. And especially with my father being there because,
Yeah.
we were very close and my father was an actor for a lot more years than I was. And so the knowledge that I got from him and what I learned from him from the acting perspective was amazing. And all the stories and my father and all the actors that he worked with, it was great. It was just, that's all we talked about. And it was either talking about Formula One for 24 hours and racing or talking about movies and people we were working together with. So it was a very fascinating time having that time with my dad.
No, totally. Was it when he came over, like when you guys came over that first time, was it just Hollywood just being clicky and just saying like, hey, we don't want anybody from another country coming in and taking work? Because I could see that being a thing,
At the
especially
time,
back in those days.
no, but back in those days, my father learned a very big lesson in this business. There's not many friends. They really back you up. And back then, if you had an accent, if you sounded Italian or Latin or something like that, you would get secondary jobs. You would get supporting actor kind of thing. Now it's a
Yeah.
different story. You have actors, from all over the world and being able to be leads in movies and all kinds of things. But back then it was different. It was very different. Also,
Totally.
back then, television was television, soap operas was soap operas. Nobody would actually cross over. Soap opera actors, they became movie stars. They never talked about soap operas. And when I went to do daytime, I was like, why don't you talk about, we don't hear about these movie stars talking about their early stuff. Why? Well, because, if you're in that world, you can't, it was different, and I wanted to get out of that because, for me, performing, whether you're on stage, whether you're on a soap opera, it's all the same thing. You're doing the same job, the same craft. So for me, I always wanted to get out being put in the corner or in the box. So when
Yeah.
I was on daytime, I went to nighttime and did movies, vice versa. And I always did what I wanted to do. And when the agents or my managers at the time said, no, you can't do this or you can't do that, I always said, well, I will do it. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
doing it. And I'm going to prove you wrong. So I've always loved that challenge because I never wanted to follow or I wanted to be a leader in my life and do what I wanted to do and not what the managers or agents wanted me to do. And that's just the way that I've been. And I learned that from my father. And we
Yeah.
learned that together because like you said, when we came to this country, my father was struggling as an actor and the so-called Hollywood friends that he had, they never helped him. They never gave him a job. They were never there. They were never, I have stories of going to movie sets, trying to meet people that he wanted to work with, and they wouldn't even return his call. So it's a tough business. So for me at a young age to see that, it actually elevated me to learn more about the business and be ready for what was coming to me. So I always knew what was around the corner, thanks to him.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot. Yeah.
Wow. Well, talking about the beginning of your career, but you mentioned something really good. The whole like, hey, if you do daytime, you don't talk about movies. What are you shocked by like throughout your career because you've been doing it for 30 plus years? Are you shocked at the way the medium is now? That it's like you see these people are always in movies. Now it's like, nope, it's all about that mini series, that 10 episode mini series.
Yeah.
It's like a
Yeah.
different weird thing.
Yeah, everything is taken to the small screen now, and the best shows, the best written shows are on television or streaming or whatever. So, but I think the business is much more open to everything at the moment, which is great, and I appreciate that. And it's about time, whatever you do, you
Oh yeah.
do. And I know a lot of soap opera actors are still doing the same thing, and they've never done anything else, and their bread and butter is going to do a soap every day for 30, 40 years. That's all they ever done.
Yeah.
Me personally, I could never do that. I've always wanted to do everything, whether it was reality shows, I wanted to do those too. I want to try them, especially the competition shows, that
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did Celebrity Circus. I won that. And I was asked to do Dancing with the Stars. That was a whole different ball game. I'm not much of a dancer, but it was an experience. And then doing movies and soap operas and traveling around the world doing mini series. I did everything. I wanted to experience the whole aspect of this business because I'm in it and I'm still in it. So for me, it was always, if I have a chance to do this, I'll do it. If I have a chance to compete and do something else, I'll do that too, whatever it takes.
You're the first person I've interviewed that has been on a lot of like the reality or even just talk shows. Because,
Yeah, I mean, when I was on, let me tell you, there's nobody knows about so much about this, but when I was on daytime, I was the only daytime actor to be on Arsenio Hall, and Arsenio Hall never had any daytime, and it was great to be able to cross over. I was also on the cover of TV Guide. I always wanted to break through to the other side, like the song. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like I always
Yep.
wanted to break the mold. Like when I turned pro as a race car driver. And I turned pro later on. I was racing go-karts and I was racing testing cars, but I never really turned pro officially until later in my 20s. And I was like,
Wow.
I'm going to go to Indianapolis. I'm going to race there. Everybody said, no, you're not. And I did. I raced for
Oh my
Porsche.
God.
I raced in front of millions of people. I turned pro. And now I'm also going to go back into boxing. I've been boxing my whole life. So I want to do exhibition fights next year like Jake Paul is doing.
Take down Jake
Yeah.
Paul, please.
I've asked him to fight. I've asked a bunch of celebrities. They all said no. They're all scared to fight. So I'm always doing something that is out of the box and shocking people because it's my life.
Yeah.
And I'm just full of a lot of energy, a lot of things. And I know I don't want to stop. I just want to do the impossible, whatever
Yeah,
it
because you
takes, man.
never know, that's one thing. I think when you're young, I'm 38 now, but I feel like in my 20s, you just feel like, hey, I'll do this tomorrow. I'll think about this next week or next month. But you get to this point, it's just like, you don't really know. Like, I have 2 kids now. I'm just like, I want to be there for all these things because you never know. Anything can
You
happen
never know.
that you're not around the next day,
And also, I'm one of those people that, I worry about, I don't, I've been asked, do you worry about the past? Or do you have regrets? I don't live like that. I live very much in
Yeah.
the moment, what's happening today. And if I want to do something and I have my mind set on something, I know the reasons that are my reason, personal reason. I talk to my family, I talk to my partner, I talk to my kids, and I tell them, this is what I want to do. Do you support it? And then they know better because they know that I'm going to do it no matter what. So then we go on and do it. We go on and do it. Yep.
I would love it. Remember when Fox did that celebrity boxing? When I think it
Yep.
was like Danny Bonaducci versus like
And
Brad
I know Danny.
Williams.
Yeah, I know Danny. I've talked to him
My God.
not too long ago. Yeah. I want to, listen, in the 90s, people don't know this, but this whole celebrity boxing thing, I started it with my trainer, with my boxing trainer back in the 90s. We were going to fight Roy Jones Jr. for an exhibition fight.
Oh my
Right
God.
after when I left General Hospital. It didn't work out. I was doing films and we were ready to fight and whatever. But so I know about this world. So for me to get back into it, since I've been boxing my whole life, and these people are making millions of dollars. I'm like, listen, I'll fight anybody for 16 minutes or whatever it is, because they do 2-minute rounds. They use big gloves. I'll fight anybody. I've asked a bunch of actors. They said no. So my boxing manager, Jackie Callan, actually, she's a Hall of Famer boxing manager. You remember that movie Meg Ryan was based on her?
Oh,
She's
yeah,
taking
yeah,
care
yeah.
of my boxing life. Yeah. So she believes in me. She knows that I'm very serious. I've been training my whole life, but more than ever, I'm ready to go to camp at the beginning of the year, and I'm ready to fight these guys. Whatever
That's awesome.
she's gonna call me one of these days, she's gonna say we're ready. So I'm ready.
It'd be cool if it was like a soap thing. Like maybe a rival you had on a soap or like an opposing soap show.
Yeah, I don't know how
I never.
much power they would bring, but all these guys. One thing is saying you train, and I'm a fitness guy. One thing is actually stepping in the ring. Like I said, my father put me in the ring at 6 years old, and I could have turned pro boxer if I wanted to. Obviously, my career went somewhere else.
Mhm.
But I love that. I love that life. I've been an athlete my whole life. And since I'm in my early 50s right now, if I'm not going to do it now, I'm not ever going to do it. And these guys are making too much money for
Yeah,
me to
yeah,
say
yeah.
no to it. And I can beat them all. So, and I can have fun in the ring. So, and people are saying that I can't do it. I love it. Tell me I can't do it. I'm like, I'm going to show you that I will.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing it. It's
What do you
happening.
think? Honest assessment. What do you think about that Paul fight? The
Well,
Paul
the Paul
Tyson
fight
fight.
is very easy for me. I knew it was going to happen. I mean, like I said, they were doing 8 rounds, 2 minutes
Yeah.
with big gloves. Tyson was recently in the hospital last summer, very bad for I don't know how long he was in there, but he wasn't looking good. So for him to allow him to fight and is like almost 60 years old was very dangerous. But nobody got hurt. Nobody got
No.
damaged. They went 8 rounds, 2 minutes, 2 minutes of, I'm ready to do 12 3-minute rounds. So for me, 2-minute rounds, 8 is easy as a walk in the
Yeah.
park. So for me, stick and move. I'm very much a Sugar Ray Leonard fighter. That's the way I've been fighting my whole life. I'm fighting a super middleweight. I'm going to be at 160 to 168. Right now, I weigh about 172, so I'm very close, very lean.
Nice.
My regimen is on point. So for me, it's going to be fun. For me, it's going to be fun to step in the ring with all these guys because first I move a lot faster. I throw my punches a lot faster. I throw over hundreds and hundreds of punches around. They don't even know what's coming. It's more entertaining. So these guys, they squared off and they hit the big shots and nobody got hurt. So you have a 30-year-old, I don't know how old Jake Paul is, less than 30 years old, against a 60-year-old who was in the hospital and nothing happened. Nothing, and they got paid 20 million and 30 million for that. I'm in, bro.
The fight before was great. It was like you go from this fight. Oh my God, they were just pummeling each other, and then you go to the next fight. Again, it was wishful thinking that Tyson was gonna look the way he did in the training videos, but when you got you had flashes in that first round, and it made you think like, oh my God, I'm thinking like I'm a little kid watching him against like Holyfield, or those old fights from the 90s.
I was there.
Like,
I was actually there
really?
for both Holyfields and Tyson.
Ooh.
Yeah, I want some good money on because Holyfield, I've known Holyfield. He's a great guy. And I've been around a lot of boxers my whole life. I know them personally. So for people to say, well, Tyson is going to be like that, he's not going to be like, he hasn't been like that. He's been on the couch doing podcasts, smoking the weefer for years, not training. And then they offer him 20 million to fight. He's going to say, yeah, I'll go in training camp and I'll train for like an explosive fight. But who knows what really happened? Who knows? Now they're offering Tyson to fight him again in the Middle East for like millions of, even more dollars if he can beat Jake Paul in the first round. But the thing is, like I said, his lungs are not there. His mind is not there. Also, you've been hit a lot of times your entire career. And also, like I said, he was very sick. He was not very healthy. So
he had blood clots like all on his legs. So that's why you got the one point in the fight and he like wasn't moving. He was like real stiff.
No, he was, it was just an exhaustion. It was tiring. It was tiring to see, but they wanted to see the old Tyson and it's never going to happen unless you can keep going. Like now, even Holyfield fought against the MMA fighter. Remember from the UFC? He couldn't last a few rounds. Yeah, he had a fight. And Roy Jones and Tyson fought.
I remember that.
Before, and they both looked overweight. Listen, just to stay fit your entire life and to stay at that weight, most athletes will never do it. In fact, because they train and they play, and I mean, like basketball players, they usually get like overweight after they're done because they're done. They're sick of it. They never want to touch a basketball. They never want to be in the gym again. For me, it's a lifestyle. I do it not because I want to, because I have to. So for me, there's rare people like myself that train their entire. My father was like that too. My mother is in the genes. Like we train all the time. So for me to keep training and doing what I do and going in a camp, it's what I do. For these people to say, oh, I'm going to, and also like Tyson, remember he was going to fight earlier, but then they postponed the fight. So actually he's been in training camp for like 6 months, and he was sick in between. So I say, be careful because, I think he can really extremely get hurt. Not so much from the punches, I think, because, Jake Paul doesn't hit that hard. His punches are very like just push punches. There's no snap. There's no like that kind of thing with him. So for him, it's just a lucky punch. So if you play and you're smarter than him, you can beat Jake Paul at any given moment.
I would love for you to fight him. I knew like when he fought Tommy Fury, I'm like, this is the only boxer he's fighting. He's going to lose. And he lost. And it was just like, oh my God. And
Tommy's not even that
like
good.
anything I know. That's yeah.
But he's a
I just
professional
never.
boxer, you know,
Yeah.
and I don't even know when they're going to even fight again because I don't think Jake Paul. You see, the thing is, it's about a business, right? It's show business. So you got to keep your fights. You obviously want to keep winning, but also it's a business. It's what makes sense to you to
Mhm.
fight this person, right? And it's also in contracts. I think they probably organize some things under the table. Well, you can't do this or you can't do that, or there's all those things because it's an exhibition fight. For me, it's very simple. Two guys fight, 8 rounds, 2 minutes, and we go at it. Whoever wins, wins. But for these guys, I'm sure they have clause, you know, and the clause probably go on forever about things you
Yeah.
can't do
Yeah.
and cannot do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the guy's
That's
60 years
awesome.
old. He's risking his life, you know. I mean, like, that's your life, and he has kids, but he made, 20 mil in 16
You make good
minutes.
coin.
I mean, I don't know where you can make 20 mil in 16 minutes anywhere else in the world, you know?
Oh man, that's cool. Thanks for sharing that. That's pretty neat. So back to the acting. So you come over, you come back over the second time. You go do the Stella Adler. And where are you guys based out of? You guys in L.A. or you guys in
Well, we
New York
lived in
City?
Hollywood. We had an apartment
Okay.
in Hollywood, not the best area, but the building was a friend of my parents that allowed us to move in this, we moved to this apartment. We lived there for several years when we first came to Los Angeles. And then we went to school. We had to go to school and learn the language. I went to ESL classes, and then eventually we went to Beverly Hills because my parents knew the Beverly Hills High School for my sister, because she was a year older, she was going to go to high school, was going to be better for us. So we moved from Hollywood. We went to the lowest part of Beverly Hills. So as long as you're in the Beverly Hills,
Yeah, yeah,
90210,
yeah.
but it was like right at east, like at the last piece of, so we were actually in Beverly Hills, but it wasn't like the so-called mansion Beverly Hills. So we lived in another apartment there, and we were allowed to go to schools there. And that's where a lot of interesting things happened to me. That's where I got arrested as a teenager because I went inside a school, my school, on a weekend. I was bored, and I broke into it because I knew that they had a good cafeteria, and I just I wanted to eat, and I saw a window open. I just went in there because in Italy that's what we do as a kids, man. We just whatever, we just go in, and I was always wild. I never really follow any rules. I guess I was a bad boy or whatever. And then the cops showed up with the light, and I'm like eating some food in the school. I'm like, what's going on here? They're like, you coming with me? And then my father picked me up at the Beverly Hills police station going, what you doing? He was smiling, actually. That's my kid, man. So that was my first, I guess, contact with the law and in Beverly Hills. So I wasn't the usual Beverly Hills kid.
And then what was that journey to that first credit? Like, was it during high school you did Stella Adler, or like right after? Like, what was?
I went to, well, first, in the schools that I went to, they had a drama department, which was really great because in Italy, there's no such things. So I took that, and then I had to screen test for an acting academy by Nina Foch. Nina Foch was a great actress. She was in a movie called An American in Paris with Gene Kelly, which I knew. And she had
Yeah.
this summer course, and she didn't have any teenagers. I was the only one, but she knew my father, and I was able to screen test for her and hopefully get in this class, in this course. It was a very advanced course, and I was the youngest one there. So I got the chance to work with a lot of actors and things. But so I screen tested, and I got into school. And so I took my first acting academy was with Nina Foch, and which was incredible. She was my first teacher. And then I continued, and then I went to Stella Adler, and then I went to the actor studio. I did everything that everybody was talking about. And then Jay Goldenberg was a great teacher, and Howard Fine's studio. I went to his studio, great acting teacher, probably one of the best in Los Angeles. So I did all that, and I continued to do that. And also I had to do dialect coach classes because I wanted to perform as an American, and I had this really heavy Italian accent that I wanted to get rid of. And that's how the whole thing started. Yeah. And I just kept doing it.
What was the first time you were like on an actual set? Like in '90, they like Karate Rock or and Janet
Yeah.
Jackson.
Karate Rock was the first movie set. And then we shot that
Okay.
in Savannah. It was a movie that cost $5. But for me, and the movie did really well because it was right after the Karate Kid, and it had this, it was like, for me to be in the movie, it was the greatest thing ever. And I was living in New York because what I did was when I went to Los Angeles and I went to a lot of different high schools. Then we moved back to Italy. I went to another school there, In fact, when I went to Italy in my teenager years, my parents said, "What are you going to do in Italy?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. What am I going to do here?" They said, "We're going to put you in a dentist school." I was going to become a dentist, but I never went to school. I cut the entire year of school. My parents didn't even know. So when they dropped me off of school, I never went to school. So I had to redo that year when I came to the States. Then I took my GED test because I said, I want to get out of this high school because I got kicked out of schools. I went to Catholic schools. I went to Palisades High. I went to Venice High, Summer. I went to all these schools. And I'm like, I got to get out of here. I want to go to New York. I want to become an actor. I want to live on my own. So my parents were like, take your GED test and graduate if that's what you want. Because I just couldn't get away from it. That's what I wanted. I got my license. I was driving a car. I had jobs all over. I got a job as young as I could. I remember working in a warehouse when I was 12, making money. So for me, it was like making money, doing it. And then I was like, I took the GED test, but I failed. And I lied to my parents. I told them that I passed. So I got on the plane and I went to New York and I lived on my own and my career took off. But then I had that thing in the back of my mind. I'm like, I never graduated. So I went back to school and I got my diploma finally. And I got
when did you do
I
that?
graduated. I did it 3 years ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
When did you finally fess up to them?
Well, they knew.
Okay, they knew
up.
right away.
I mean, yeah. They knew that, and I knew that I owed it to my parents, especially my mother. It was very important to her to get back to school and get this done.
That's awesome.
So I did, and it was the hardest thing because obviously years passed by, and the mathematics and the whole, I had to do 4 years of school because it wasn't like they're going to allow me because I left when I was a sophomore because I had to redo that year again. And I was like, well, you got to do 4 years from the beginning. So I did. And I graduated from Florida and I got my diploma and I made it.
That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Thanks.
Did you have to go into class or did you do it online?
Yeah. I went to class. I did some from home. I did all my testing from class. Yeah. I had to do 4 years and pretty much I had to study for a month and then I did a month of school. I just wanted to do it and I put my mind to it and I got it done. I got it done in less than 60 days.
Wow.
It's tough. It wasn't easy.
Amazing.
I wouldn't do that again because no way. But I did. I graduated from Florida. Imagine that.
Look at that. That's cool, man. Again,
Thanks,
something
buddy.
so many years later, other people will just like put it off. It's even, I think it's really cool when anybody does that, when you hear like athletes that like declared like after, I'm going to go pro after a freshman year. And then you see them doing it like in the middle of the summer and stuff. It's like, all right, I know they're normal people, but I'm like, that's really cool. Like, hey, you made a promise and you followed through with it because obviously it's important to you. It's important to your parents, but it shows your kids like it's never too late to do whatever it is.
Never too late. It's never too late to venture in anything you want. You always wanted to venture. That's why I say to people, no matter how high the dreams or impossible it may seem, give it a shot. Be honest to yourself and put in the work and get it done. So anything is possible in any age. It doesn't matter what age. It's just a number. So for me, that was a goal that I needed to do, and I'm glad I did it.
That's awesome. So you got Karate Rock, you had a Janet Jackson video. Again, this is something that you wanted to do. It was in your blood.
Yeah.
But when was the point that it was like, all right, I can really do this? Was it like getting like a series like Earth 2, or is the movie that you did before that? It was like, hey, I know I want to do this, but I can like realistically do this.
I always knew I could do it, even from my first audition. But, I tried for General Hospital the first time before I did Karate Rock, and I didn't get it. I got close. I was auditioning a lot. I was trying to get an agent. I got an agent, Tom Jennings, I believe it was his name. And he sent me out a lot, and I just went. And I didn't know the language very well. For me, it was just about going to the dialect coach, learning everything specifically. I even had to do Shakespeare. I didn't even know what Shakespeare was all about. I'm like, imagine an Italian kid doesn't even speak the language doing Shakespeare. But I had to learn each word by word and memorize everything. So I went for General Hospital the first time, and I didn't get that job, and I was really bummed out. Obviously, I wanted to get a steady job. I wanted to work in America so bad. And then I did movies. I did Italian movies as well. And then I came back, and there was that John Jagger Case character being auditioned. And that's when I really went at it again, and I got that job. And then I think when I was working on General Hospital, because my storylines and my 2 years on GH were huge for me. And it was the beginning of just the next step in my life in this business. I was working every day. And so I felt like I belonged, and the fan base was huge. So I knew that I was in the right place at the right time. And so I really used that time for me and to create a future. And because I wanted to be in this business for as long as I could, and I wanted it to. And my father, like I said, was there with me. My mother was there. I had great parents who supported me, and my sister. The four of us were very close. And yeah, we did it. And I just kept doing the things. And like I mentioned earlier, when they told me not to do nighttime television, you got to stick, they wanted to renew my contract at General Hospital. I said, no, I'm going to go work with Steven Spielberg. I'm going to go on Earth 2. I'm going to move to New Mexico. I was going to become a father. I was a young father in my 20s. I wanted to be a father as well. I want to have my kids. So everything for me was very young. Everything was premature with me. I was born premature. I was born on the 29th of February, which is like leap year, baby. For me, it's
Yeah.
like I am always the first one there and the last one to leave. It's just the type of personality that I have. It's just who I am.
No, that's a good way to live. What was it like? Was that a big change? Just from people I've talked to, like being on a soap, it's like, whoa. It's kind of like, I don't want to say boot camp, but it is kind of like, all right, let's go. Because there's a lot of pages you're doing every day.
Yeah, but for me, I was very close with the executive producer. We became really good friends. Wendy Rich, who's the executive producer at General Hospital. And for me, it was important to really make the performance stand out. I really wanted to work on my craft. So what we did was we hired an acting coach, Jay Goldenberg, a very famous acting coach and teacher, to come on set. It was unheard of because everybody's soap opera actors go to work, they rehearse their lines, they do their blocking, they do their lines, and they move on. For me, it was never about the lines. For me, it was about performance, performance. I was nominated for many awards, all the daytime soap opera awards. For me, it was just a matter of getting the job done. Maybe it was a little bit insecurities inside of me, being from another country. I wanted to be extra good. I don't know what it is, or perfectionist in me. But everything that I did on General Hospital for those 2 years were rehearsed with an acting coach, with me and the rest of the group of actors that I was working on a daily basis. So it was good for me. So for me, it was really not only a workshop. For me, it was like my acting craft from 0 to 1,000, because I really performed like I was on Broadway. For me, it was just like the performance and really getting the best out of me. So when I left and I was going to nighttime television or doing movies and all that thing started, I had 2 great years of a lot of learning, a lot of lines, we did, I don't know how many, 70 scenes a day.
Yeah.
On a weekend we did, I don't know many, it was ridiculous amount of scripted dialogue. It was also given to me the night before. It wasn't like I had all this time to learn this stuff. Like we do everything today. I get home, I get the script for tomorrow, and I got to work on it tonight. Then we get to the set very early, and then I work with my acting coach on set, and then I go rehearse and block and do it. So it was great. I was really taken to a whole new world of performance that I really.
That's awesome. How soon after did you always know, like when you said you auditioned that first time, did you know how big like soap operas were in America?
Yeah, I did know because everybody talks about it, and everybody talked about the Luke and Laura days, and General Hospital was very prestigious. It still is. It's a very prestigious soap opera. It's one of the few left. It's been
Yeah.
around from day one. And I just loved, ABC and Disney and General Hospital. The whole thing just was great. I wanted to be associated with that world and be working with these great producers. And also, I don't know now, but back then, General Hospital had a team of storytellers. So we had so many great storylines that took months and months and months of working. Storylines right now, from what I hear from people that are still working, are just like a week old. For me, there was like
Oh, they
months
don't
old.
build enough. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't. We had 30 people writing scripts and working on storylines that kind of changed the future of soap operas. I was part of that. We did a lot of things that was out of the ordinary, but great storylines. It took, and also I got to work with all kinds of actors, different ages, experiences, and stuff. Amazing people. And so for me, I just took it all in, my man. I just really
Yeah.
soaked it all in.
How soon after it aired that you got noticed in public? Because I've heard for the fan base, like people like after like a day or two, they're like out to eat or something, and it's like, oh my
It was
god,
right
I get
away.
it.
It was
Yeah,
right
yeah.
away. They build it up. I remember they were calling me the young Brando. They did the same thing with my father. They used to call my father the young Brando too. So for me, it was a huge
Yeah, look at
compliment.
that.
Love
That's cool.
Brando. And so that all the soap opera magazine had me on the cover. And like I said, I did TV Guide, Arsenio Hall. I hosted a lot of parades, the Disney Easter Parade, and I did a lot of things. I didn't forget how many things and I used to travel all over the country, and they used to send me to all the fan bases, even in Canada. So I knew that the character Jagger, they didn't even call me Antonio. They call me Jagger by the name. Still today, they want me to go back. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting world because they see you every day on their TV, and it's incredible. And I had part of that, so it was a blessing. It really was.
Yeah, you're like that friend. You're like the familiar face that they get to see
Yeah,
every day. You know,
yeah,
that's awesome, man.
yeah.
So one movie that you were in that I think was one movie that I just loved and still do is The Big Hit.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah.
such an
That
awesome movie.
Yeah, the big hit was, and I have stories about that. When I was doing another film with Neil McDonough at the time called Circles. So I produced this film with Neil and myself, and my agent called me to screen test for this role. That was just going to be like a few days of, which is an ensemble, with Bokeem and Lou Diamond and Mark and Wesley Snipes is going to produce this film. So I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then that role turned out to be 3 months, and that role turned out to be a lot bigger, and they kept writing stuff for me. So obviously I felt good with my performance. They wanted me around. I was supposed to be there for a week. I stayed there. Like I said, we shot in Toronto. I stayed there for the whole 3 months. I went on tour with all the cast. I was on the poster, and that became part of my movie, but part of my legacy. So like I said, you just keep pushing, and keep achieving the impossible, and you never know what could turn out. But just be ready, just be ready, and
Yeah.
you get it done.
Yeah, Neil, that's it. That's a guy that he turned now he's like a go-to bad guy. He's a bad guy in a lot of stuff. Neil McDonough. If I'm
Oh
thinking
yeah,
of the
yeah,
same
oh yeah,
guy,
oh
right?
yeah,
He's
yeah,
like
yeah.
the
Neil
last
McDonough,
like
that's right.
10, 15 years, ever he shows up, bad guy. Or if he's not the bad guy, you like, I don't trust that guy. He's gonna be
Yeah,
the
he's
bad guy.
he's uh he's one of the nicest guys I ever worked with. Just a pleasure to work with. And we did this small movie called Circles about two guys from different backgrounds. One is in college, one graduated from college, and then they meet up again. A wonderful little movie that I produced, and yeah, I got to meet him, and he's all over. I think he's on Tulsa King, right?
Yeah, I think he's on that. I'm just thinking that even just like the big action movies, he just shows up as like the bad guy.
Yeah,
All
he's great. He's great. Yeah, he's great. He's a great actor. He's been around a long time, and yeah, I'm really playing. He's got a wonderful family. The guy's great. Yeah, I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, so like you said, you're super busy. You leave the soap world, you go to night, you're working, you're doing a ton of guest spots on it. Cool. That's one thing I think is pretty cool. Again, maybe in some people are like, yeah, I just want to be on one show or two shows, or I think it's really cool when you have the opportunity because that's how you only are going to grow and learn is when you work with different people. Even if it's like sometimes it can be like a difficult thing to like be a guest star for an episode, right?
I wanted to do everything. I wanted to work
Yeah.
with different producers, different shows, different characters, different TV shows, movies. Like I said, reality shows, reality competition shows, the commercial world, obviously working for Calvin Klein, doing 3 campaigns for him, doing that too. Racing cars. For me, it was just whatever came about. There was a possibility. There was out of the box. I'm there. I do it.
Yeah.
And I was always ready for the challenge because it was new environments, new sets, new way of working. So it was always good. I always wanted to do different things, and I always wanted to expand my career and the horizon. I wanted to also be part of everything about this business. I wanted to host. I wanted to compete. I wanted to act. I wanted whatever, man. And I'm still doing it right now. I still have the same mentality, that comedies, thrillers, action movies, sitcoms, whatever, all of them, everything.
Yeah. It's a good challenge, and it's like you're not doing the same thing. I always think that's great. Like Danny Elfman, the
Composer?
musician and composer.
Yep.
Yeah. So like him, he doesn't like to do the same type of movie back to back. and I love his scores. And it's funny when you go to from you think of the movies he does, you look at the next movie, something totally different, like
Yeah.
totally different vibe and everything. And
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to do it because because you do the same thing over and over, you kind of sometimes get complacent. So it's good to different kind of role or for you, like I think this is really neat. Like you talk about like, hey, I want to take this seriously. I got an acting coach. I want to do my best. And I know you want to do your best in everything. But was it difficult to like play yourself? Like when you're on like Ugly Betty or Scrubs, that's got to be kind of like
Well,
I don't know, kind of a
those are
weird thing.
funny. No,
Yeah.
to make
No, I
fun of
know. Yeah.
myself. Yeah, to
Yeah.
make fun of myself, it's
Yeah.
a constant. I love doing that. The more fun of myself I can make, the better. But also, comedy is extremely difficult to do. So that's a challenge on its own to make people laugh. Wow, I mean
Mm-hmm.
that's probably the hardest thing you can do is to make people laugh and entertain them for that period of time. So to do shows like The Help or like the Ugly Betty in those shows and doing comedies in general was another challenge because, obviously, I'm not a comedian or whatever. So you have to use the product that you're working with and the actors you're working with in the whole scenario. But it was a challenge. It was a challenge to do comedies, but I think it improved my ability to do everything like, and just to be ready for those comedic parts, which I enjoy. I think to make fun of myself and to make people laugh, to entertain people is why I do what I do. And to
Yeah.
have the fan base that I have from all over the world. It's incredible that I'm still doing what I love and entertaining people from Australia to Italy and everywhere in between. So it's extraordinary what this business has done for me and my family, and I appreciate it.
It's great that that's cool. You appreciate like how much you care just from, again, just talking for like 45 minutes, like how much you truly like love what
I
you
love it,
do
man. I
and
love sets.
appreciate the fans.
I do. I love my fans. I'm on TikTok recently, and I get the chance to do a lot of lives on TikToks, and fans from all over the world come and ask me questions from way back, and it's just a humbling experience, that I love movie sets. I love movies in general. I love entertainment. I love to be part of that world and a new venture. When you start a project, you don't know how it's going to turn out. I did this movie called Grace by Night that it's out now. Is the best movie I ever made. That is just taken off. It's just the fans are. We don't have a big budget. We don't have this marketing money thing behind it. We have a very small distribution, and this movie is just taken off because it's a great freaking movie. The best film I think out there right now. It's just
Oh,
it's
sweet. Check it
motivational.
out.
Yeah, it's called Grace by Night. It's just it's the Rocky movie of our time. Oh, it's that movie that you feel great, you have tears, good tears, and I'm part of that. And so the fans are taking it to the next level, and the fans have always supported me. So I just love working even harder for them because if I give them something they want to see, like Grace by Night and things like that, or the film I just finished called 426, which is a horror movie. I haven't done
Nice.
a lot of horror movies. That was a challenge in itself. Oh, yeah, man. But there's so much more I want to do. I want to remake my father's movies, all those
Really?
beautiful westerns. Yeah, I want to do a boxing movie that my father wrote called Moments That Count that he wrote many, many years ago. I want to dedicate that movie to him. So there's just a lot of stuff I want to do, man. I really
I
do.
love that. No, it's good,
Yeah,
man.
man.
It's good to have a lot of things to do. And one thing that you've done, I know you mentioned a little bit before, but Arsenio Hall, like being on that's a pretty big deal because he was
Yeah,
he was like really having fun with it. Like when you look back at some of the guests he would
he was
have
great.
on, the bits he would have, he interviewed
Yeah.
Jason Voorhees and he didn't speak the whole time, and it was like entertaining because of him, you know?
I wanted to be on the show since the first day he came on the air. I love the guy, and I just said to myself, whatever it takes, I'm going to be on that show. And I was the only soap opera actor, believe me, daytime actor to ever do his show. And
Wow.
I think any nighttime shows, actually, from Johnny Carson to any at the time, and Arsenio was big there, was at the top. And I sat on that couch, man, and it was great. I said, like, I like whatever. And so my mind was always, if I want to do this, I'm going to do it. And there's nothing going to stop me from making
Yeah.
it happen. Period. And then, so I did it. I actually did it. I was like, all right, just keep going then. Let's see what else you're going to do. So,
What were the other shows you're on? Because I know you're on The View was one of them. Did you do the other late night like Jay Leno and Letterman? Any of those?
I didn't do those. But I would do them anytime. I just yeah, but The View was interesting. You know, obviously the political world and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
I work on facts, so for me, you can put me in any situation
Yeah.
as long as I know the facts and I'm very well educated. I can make it happen. I
Yeah.
work on facts. I don't work on lies. I don't talk lies. I don't make stuff up. If you ask me something and if I don't know it, I'll tell you I don't know it. But if I do know it, I'm going to elaborate. So for me, it was never like being on shows and debate anybody because it's really like, it's my opinion based on facts and you might disagree with that and that's it, you know, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, totally. And one of the reality things you're on, because you mentioned like the competitions and everything. One you were on, I don't know how I didn't see that episode, but celebrity wife swap with
Yeah.
and Mick Foley. So you had Mick Foley's wife as your wife, or what is that for like a week or a few days, or
That was a very challenging time because my ex-wife, you know, obviously we had a young baby, our boy who's a teenager, the most wonderful kid ever, my son, Antonio. And, yeah, it was a challenge. That was a personal challenge. That was like, we even got in a fight at the end. Like we had to apologize because it was so stressful. They had to send her to Florida. You know, I had to take care of the baby by myself. I had a stranger living in my house. That was the most watched episode they ever had because
really?
me and my ex got in a fight, which it was like kind of planned out. It was kind of both, but we were both so freaking tired. And yeah, I did that too. So it's like whatever,
Yeah,
man. Like, see how like yeah, we incorporated all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? So I can tell you, I've done
you're
pretty
down for
much.
whatever.
I'm down for whatever at the time that makes sense to me. Just like
Mhm.
this boxing thing, just like
Yeah,
going back into racing, just like I know this is my time, so I'm going to use whatever I can to make it happen, you know. And yeah, and like there was a time where me and my family owned restaurants in Beverly Hills, and we were,
really.
you know, buying properties. Yeah, we had Italian restaurants, and we enjoyed doing that time. And we had Prego in Beverly Hills. We had another restaurant called Sabato Cucina, and so anyway, it was just different times in my life that I've been fulfilled. I mean, I've done so many things that, but there's still more to go, and there's still more to
Yeah,
go. There's
that's
a
what I
lot more
mean,
to
man.
go.
Have you written a book?
I did.
You did
I
about
did
your
too.
life? Because I'm just thinking,
Two
there's
books.
so many different chapters of different things you do.
I have a
It's
book out right
fascinating.
now called The Antonio Sabato Jr. The Untold Stories, just about me coming
Cool.
to this country, my family, my mother's family, my father's family, our lives in Italy and here. I also have a fitness book called No Excuses that came out a while back about my regimen and what I do, what I used to do. Actually, I should release another book because I do completely different things now. But yeah, so I've done books and yeah, I've done a lot, man.
Yeah. No, I'll put that in the episode notes and I'll share. That's pretty neat. But a few questions I always like to ask people. One, I know this is something you were going to do no matter what. Was there any other things besides being the race car driver, besides acting? I know it's not dentist. You were going to be a dentist, but was there any other careers that you thought of like, hey, that could be interesting, like at a young age?
No, acting was always there growing up.
That was it.
That I wanted to, yeah, I just wanted to make movies. I wanted to be my father. I wanted to do what he did. I also wanted to be in those from the movies that I grew up watching. And I just wanted to make race car movies, boxing movies, action films, westerns. To me, there's nothing better than being on set. It really is a wonderful, it's my office. I love the process that it takes to build something from paper, from a script. And you don't know how it's going to turn out. You don't know how much money's going to, you don't know nothing about anything. You don't know how these people are going to work together. You don't know how the grips and the electricians and the director, the locations, if it's going to rain or snow, like all those things excites me because the beauty of it, the spontaneity of this business is what makes it interesting because you never know. And every movie is a relationship of its own. So it's incredible. Every movie, every set I've been on, it's been a different part of my life. And I search to have more of that. That's why I want to keep making films because the not knowing is what really is interesting to me. Like,
Yeah.
it's like Christopher Columbus getting to the promised land and going, it is there. I don't know if it's there, but I'm going to get
Yeah.
there. And the fun part is trying to get there. So that's how I see it.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
How about early on in your career? Did you think of it like I should keep mementos? But do you have anything from any of your early sets that
Oh
you
yeah,
worked on?
well, this chair right here, my father gave
Oh,
me this
what's that
chair.
from?
This is the chair that my father gave me on Karate Rock. This is the chair that he
My
gave me on my
God.
first movie. Yeah, and my father's old school, right? So it's like you got to have your chair and you got to have your name. You can see there's an accent on the second A because it's pronounced Sabato. It's not, like Saturday, right? But
Yeah.
Sabato, Sabato in Italiano is Sabato, but my last name is actually pronounced Sabato. So it's different. There's an accent on the second A that my father put there to make sure that they pronounced it right. And he did that for
Wow.
me on that chair. This is the original chair that I had that I used to take on movie sets.
So you used to take that to
Yeah.
you used to bring
I used
that
to take
after
this.
that. You used to
Well,
bring that? That's awesome.
you take this piece,
Mhm.
and you put it on that chair. I used to take this chair on the locations that were in America, but and after that, I just took my name and I just put it on each chair. My father would actually do that for me. It was amazing.
Oh,
Every
that's
time I got
amazing.
on the set, my father would have the chair there, proud father, and me and him would just start working together. And that's the original chair right there.
Wow, so that's seen a lot of cool movie sets, and
Yep.
that's
Yep.
really neat. I haven't heard
Yeah. It's
that
been
before.
everywhere.
Is there any other things you've kept over the years, like from like a specific movie, like, hey, I got to keep a script, or is that just going to become
Yeah,
a
I
pile in a
have
closet? Oh,
scripts.
you do? Cool.
Yeah, I have scripts from movies. I have my father's scripts. I have scripts that me and my father worked on. I have obviously memorabilia from some movies, jackets and ulsters from guns that I was wearing in the films. I have a bunch of stuff,
That's cool.
helmets. I have racing helmets. Obviously, I have a lot of stuff that I've kept over the years. That is somewhat outside of my office, or the trophies that I've had from the reality shows that I won. Yeah, it's just a lot of stuff. I have them all over the house.
There'll be more. You'll get that boxing, something from that boxing. Even if you have to, when you win, you have to have some trophy made or some belt
We'll
to
make we'll make
commemorate
we'll
it.
make a we'll make something to elaborate on that event. My
Yeah.
family will do something for sure, but yeah, just memories and things. Like I said, every movie and every set I've ever been on, it's a different part of you and very different. They're all very unique. Working with William Friedkin, one of the greatest directors
Yeah.
of our time. I did a movie called Jailbreakers with Shannon Doherty, and he was the greatest. And I learned so much from a guy like that. And he passed away. He's in heaven. God bless him. But one of the greatest directors of our time. The Exorcist, The French Connection. So
Yeah.
for me, I was like a sponge. When I got that job and I was working with Freakin', I would just listen to all these stories like all day long. And I'm one of those actors that I really trust my director. Even if I don't get along with him, which I don't, I get along with everybody. Let's say there's some misunderstanding or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
whatever, just different personalities on a set. I rely on the director for everything. So he's the captain of that ship and I'm the sailor trying to take that ship across the sea and we're going to make it. And so for me, it's a full trust. So for me, it's just learning from the directors that I work with and really trusting them. And they like that. I think from what they tell me, friends of mine and directors that I work with, they always told me like, I remember George Miller. I worked with him in Australia. He was the guy that did The Man from Snowy River,
Yeah.
a really great film that I love. And I got the chance to work with George. And after the movie was the miniseries was done, he told me, "You're an honorable man." I remember he told me that. And that was cool because he knew that I'd back him up. Whatever he needed me
Yeah.
to do, I'd do it 1,000 times and we get it. I trust him. Whatever he tells me to do, I'm going to make it happen. So I'm very much a director's actor.
And I see you direct. You've directed before, right?
Yep, I direct the small things and music videos, but I want to direct. I have projects that I fully want to direct on my own that I'm ready to do, and when the opportunity happens, I will be directing, and I really enjoy that. I really enjoy directing because, like I said, I really love working with actors because I'm an actor myself, and
Mm-hmm.
and I know the vision that I have for specific projects, and yeah, just get them done. So I'm definitely going to direct for sure and produce. I produced a lot of stuff, and I like producing part of it. Where you have a chance to have a lot to say in the project, especially on post production and things like that. But yeah, I like the. I also was a projectionist. When in my younger years, when I had jobs as a teenager, one of them was working at the UA Theater in Marina Del Rey, and I was an usher I became an assistant manager, and I also became a projectionist, which was
Nice.
a job that I really enjoyed, putting the film and the big machine and running it and making sure that it doesn't get burned. And like it rolls, it rolls on these big circle things. And I learned how to do that. And I used to do like 6 houses in one theater every day. So I enjoy doing that as well. So I love every aspect of this business. That's why I
There's
worked in a
something about
movie
that
theater.
old film sound. Like I went to a drive-in out in like eastern Pennsylvania. It's probably about like an hour and a half from me, and they do like all movies all the time. Old 35 millimeter. They'll get it shipped in. They share them with the different like drive-ins throughout the country. And I went for like a Friday the 13th thing, and it was
Oh,
cool because the
cool.
copy they had of Part 5 had like subtitles, but they were like on it. So it was
Yeah.
like they actually like it was like built onto the movie, like not anything like added afterwards. And just hearing that sound, it's like very cool. And you see the graininess, you see like a hair or something on the
Oh,
film. It's like
yeah.
this really nostalgic look. Like I feel like sometimes movies nowadays, it's like looks too real. Like I don't know, it's like this weird
Different
look
time. Yeah, well,
sometimes.
it's too much technology right now because you
Yeah.
have the AI, you have the CGI, and I was watching a documentary they did about Ayrton Senna, the driver, which is one of my favorite drivers of all time, and they put him in this in this set with the green screen in the back, and they moved the car and they spray the water. He's driving through the rain. My father in Grand Prix, they drove. John Frankenheimer, which is director of Grand Prix, won 3 Academy Awards. Those movies were done for real. They were John Stevens, the cinematographer, a good friend of ours. He passed a while back. He was in the car, sitting in front of these formula cars, backwards, going 100 miles per hour. Everything was real. The drivers had to learn how to, the actors had to learn how to be race car drivers. James Gardner, my father, everybody else had to learn because everything was real. So that's the kind of films I want to do. I want to be the
Yeah.
real guy in there. I ride horses. I do, I've learned how to, I've been around guns my whole life. I shot everything. I know how to, I'm pretty much, I have CCWs, all, different states. I've been around law enforcement and the military and special forces. I want to be able to do those things for real if I'm asked to do. And I want to make those movies not in a green screen. I want to make those movies on a real track, on a real farm, riding, I want to do the real stuff, because there's a difference. That's why, I love Tom Cruise and I love his movies because he's one of the last action guys, if not the,
Yeah.
that actually does his own stunts, and he's crazy enough to do it. I've done my whole life. I've done my own stunts. I've learned how to do things perfectly, so I know how to do them and look good on camera. And I've taken the right courses to do those. So that's what you got to do. And my father was always telling me, you got to learn how to fence. You got to learn how to use sticks and guns, and you got to learn how to fight. You got to like all those things were important to be an actor because that's the acting world that I grew up in. That you got to be ready for anything, and you got to be able to do it yourself.
Yeah. No, and I think when you know that it's real, even if it's like an easy action movie,
Yeah.
that like a buddy cop movie, just seeing the guy get thrown through the glass or like the punch look
Yeah.
real, it just makes
Yeah.
you like. I watched Operation Condor. Did you ever see that movie?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I don't know. I'm telling you, me and my wife love like thriller movies. So every so often, we do the same thing, like every, just like everyone does. Oh, what are we going to watch tonight? And they're like, oh, let's look at this list. For the first time ever, I've even seen this trailer for it. The stunts in that movie, like while I'm watching it, my heart was like in my stomach. I was like, oh my God, that guy's really hanging on to that plane. And you could tell like
Yeah.
that stunt guy is about to fall off. Like his fingers,
Oh,
you
yeah.
saw how hard he was holding on to it.
Well, that's why Tom Cruise has to go in the Middle East and jump out of a building or jump or be hooked on
Yeah.
a plane because no other countries will allow him to do it. That's why he had to go to Norway to jump that, the motorcycle jump. And I've been skydiving for many years. Like I am ready to do whatever it takes to get the job done. If the job comes to me like that, I'm ready to do it. So I'm that mentality too, that, you want to be on camera. You want to, and how cool it is to see the actor surfing. I learned how to surf in
Yes. Oh my
California
God. The
because,
worst is when you cut to it
yeah,
and it's like a guy with a blonde, like a terrible wig on. And
I
you're
want to
like,
do my own
ah,
stunts. I
that's
want to
awesome.
be able to see me and go, wow, that was Antonio doing that. And that's
What was
cool. And
the
I want to
most,
see actors do that.
what was the hairiest stunt that you think you've ever done that you were like, obviously, like you said, you want to do it safe. You talk to the stunt team. There's like this planning of it. Was there one that you saw on camera and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that?
I remember doing my second Italian film was called Arizona Road, which was an action film was shot in Arizona and in Italy. And one of the stunts was to drive a school bus through a wall and a gate. And I did that convincingly. Like I just went there. So I did a lot of those kinds of things, jumping from high places, making sure you land on the right spot. Fight scenes, with knives and guns and things like that are very hairy. You got to be very precise and know exactly what's going on with the gunsmith and everybody around. And like I said, I've been around guns my whole life, so I take those jobs and those opportunities very, very seriously on sets, especially or anywhere. And so riding horses very fast, galloping, those are very challenging, especially when you need to stop that horse on a specific spot.
Yeah.
Done a lot of those. Cars, motorcycles, stunts on motorcycles, riding really fast, going through traffic, and then stopping right there at, when the camera needs it. Those are challenging. But anything, when you have to do a specific thing and end on that spot where the camera is on focus on you, is very tough. It's very tough, especially when there's explosions. One time I was they set up this, it was the fire in a jail. I was trapped in a jail in Arizona Road, and they set the whole place on fire. Well, I wasn't able to get out as soon as I could, so I was stuck in there, and they were trying to get me out, but the cameras were rolling, so I was able to get out of that cell. That was scary because the whole building burned down to the ground. My father was outside, and as a matter of fact, when I stepped out and I made it out alive, and the cameras were rolling, the whole thing just caught on fire, and it was just the whole place went down in less than like 20 seconds. It seemed. I made it alive. Yeah, that was a little tricky there. It was a little scary, but I made it out.
And that's real. And then it would be
That's
no
real.
take two. Like, even if you
That was
obviously
real.
you got out, but I'm saying, like, if it was like, all right, let's shut down the shot and just get him out, people come and grab, like, it could, it's like, what are you gonna do? Find a new place to burn down, you know?
Yeah, no, it was in those low budget films, you don't have like, you can get away with doing things. It wasn't like the inspectors and this, we have the fire department and the chief of the fire department in Rome and all that stuff. But, that place took, when you're dealing with fire and things like that, you never know what could happen. And in fact, the whole jail burned down to the ground. But thank God I
Yeah.
wasn't in it,
Yeah, right. Antonio, man, this is awesome. So you were like one of,
Thank you,
I'm telling you, you're like the Dos Equis guy. You're like the most interesting guy in the world. Like, you have done, I guarantee I could probably throw anything out there and you've probably done it. And I think that's an amazing quality, and
Thank
how
you.
much love you have and passion for life. I think it's such
Thanks,
a
man.
cool thing, because what else, man? What else are you going to do, right?
You gotta be yourself, and you gotta love life every day, and you gotta be on top of what you want to do. And I try to tell people, not to worry, and because what's that gonna do? So you try to find something you're passionate about and you love being part of, and just do that, and then if
Yeah.
other opportunities come or something comes up in your mind that you want to do, don't wait. Me and my girl travel a lot every year, and so we plan a trip in advance so then we can't miss it. Because what happens is that if you keep thinking about that trip, if you keep thinking about it, it's never going to happen, and you might miss out. So I tell my children too, like, if you want to do something, do it. If you want to set something up, make sure that that date is your date to travel to that place, or to read that book, or to watch that film, or whatever you want to do, and actually do it. So I'm one of those guys that if I set my mind and I want to do it, otherwise I'm not going to say. I'm going to do it no matter
Yeah.
what. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks so much. I'll give you a shout when this comes out. Probably like next month, the month after. I can't wait to see
Yeah, buddy. Thank you,
you
man.
fight next year, man.
Yeah, I hope it works out. Listen, I
Yeah, me
give it
too.
in the hands of my manager. She's, like I said, a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
She
one of the
knows this
best. So
business
yeah, you're not
better.
messing around.
Yeah, and Jackie's the best. So I know it's going to work out, and all I got to do is just stay healthy, stay in top shape, and getting it done. And I'll be ready for racing. I'll be ready for boxing, movies, whatever. It's going to be a very good year for me. Very exciting year, and we'll see what happens. And we'll be back to talk to you for more stuff.
Yeah, man. I'm sure in a year you would do more than enough. That would, be another hour, man, which is great.
Yeah, no problem.
All right,
Thank
man.
you
Have
for
a great
having
rest
me
of your
on.
night. Happy holidays.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you.